It was May, and in the wonderful summer times in the Kashmir Valley, that's where I was, having lunch with my team, when I got a call from my headquarters, and the colonel in charge of administration there called me up. He says, "Krish, how many vehicles do you need?" I said, "Sir, for what?" He said, "Oh, that means you still haven't received your orders." So that really was the end of my appetite. I kept wondering as to what is it that is happening. Very soon, that dreaded call came from the headquarters. My commander called me. He says, "Krish, there are some problems up north towards Kargil. We don't know what it is. They have asked for some additional troops, so you have to take your battalion there. And you have to go there immediately." Now, I was commanding a Rashtriya Rifles battalion, which is a specialized counter-insurgency troops, which is normally deployed in these kind of situations, and they are not moved from one place to another. So here I was given 24 hours to move lock, stock and barrel from one area to an entirely different sector. So I split my unit into two parts. One moved immediately within 24 hours. The second moved in 48 hours. Now, the information was so sketchy, we had no maps of the area that we were supposed to go to. So we procured tourism maps of the J&K, used that to navigate and reach our area, because in those days we had no Google Maps or GPS navigators to help us. The Zojila Pass is the link between the Kashmir Valley and the Ladakh region. This is a pass which is snowbound during the winters and is cleared off for movement of road traffic in the onset of summers. We were amongst the first convoys to cross over the Zojila towards Dras. Now, my first group, which had moved within 24 hours, got across safely. I was with the second group, and what a rousing reception we got. We were pinned down by accurate artillery fire from the Pakistani side. We didn't know what hit us. So we just hugged to the hillside where the effect of the shelling was a little less, waited till nightfall, and then moved ahead slowly without headlights. These were some very difficult times. I reported to the headquarters at Dras and asked them, "Sir, what are my orders?" He says, "We are not too sure, but we have got some report from grazers that there are some militants in this area, and since you are a specialized unit to fight militancy, you have come here, please go and take care of it." So that is where my operation started. I immediately spread my unit into 4 lots. A part of it was deployed to prevent the highway from being interdicted and the militants don't come and then disrupt the movement of the convoys, because these convoys were to move from Srinagar, move to Leh and stock up the Leh garrison with food, ammunition, equipment and the like. So, having deployed my unit, I found that my spread of the battalion was almost about 100 kilometers, where we were deployed in small little pockets of around 30-35 men each, called a platoon. Communicating with them on the radio set was difficult. Movement was restricted by night, and they were all deployed in areas which were not accessible by roads. All movement was on foot. And this was when we realized the difficulties. Normally, troops moving into these kind of altitudes, that is over 2000 meters, are supposed to get acclimatized. Your body has to get used to the rarefied atmosphere that is prevalent in these areas. We did not have that luxury. Because of the urgency of the matter, we moved to heights of over 2500 meters directly in a matter of just 2-3 days. We started our search operations. We started climbing every hillside in front of us, and it's after about 2-3 days that we actually had our first encounter with a Pakistani deployment. We had a firefight. It was basically an exchange of fire at a very close distance of a few hundred meters. Now, normally, militants, when they have an exchange of fire, they would try and cause maximum damage to you and flee to their hideouts or wherever they came from. But in this case, what we realized was that these so-called militants were standing and fighting back. That gave us a suspicion that something is amiss. And then for the next 3 weeks, we continuously, every night, kept prodding up to identify each and every of those intrusions of the Pakistanis into our area. He was at a ground of advantage because he was at a height, we were in the lower reaches, climbing up towards him, where he could actually pelt a stone and knock us down. Such was the kind of operations that we carried out, and all this was in the month of May, when the rest of the nation was gleefully unaware of the realities of what was happening out there. By the end of May, the army realized what exactly had gone wrong, what is the size of the intrusions, where all they had come into, and that is when the whole plan of operations changed. Additional troops were brought in, and then you had those glorious tales of Kargil and Tololing that you hear about in Kargil. Now the point is, as first responders to the crisis in Kargil, we were the part of the first and early army reaction which actually discovered the intrusions. These tasks were carried out at a very heavy price by us. But what you hear of today are the battles of Tololing and Kargil, and not of all the hard work that goes on behind it. Remember, in life, everybody likes a success story, but the hard work that goes behind it is most often unsung, unheard of. The operations finished. End of July, the Pakistanis, remnants of them, were forced to withdraw, and come August, we were looking forward to getting redeployed, because obviously our job out there was done, and the whole army was reorganizing itself. Then came another surprise to us. The government, in its wisdom, decided that they had to paint a picture that everything was absolutely fine and normal in the region. So south of Zojila is a very revered shrine for the Hindus, the Amarnath Cave Temple. Annually, in the month of July and August, you have this pilgrimage or yatra that is done by a lot of devotees who move in and worship out there. So the government decided that the operations having been completed, we will have a truncated yatra, and yours truly was readily available, and I was given the next task of providing security for the yatra. Now, it was a very prestigious issue for the government. We could not afford to have another incident in that area. So there I was, deploying myself to protect the entire yatra route, and for those of you who are aware, I was covering a distance all the way from Chandanwadi, coming to Sheshnag, Panchtarni, Sangam, on to Baltal. Entire stretch a little over 40 kilometers, heights over 3,000 meters. And we had to ensure that the entire yatra went incident-free. A job that we had never done before, we never practiced, trained or rehearsed. But I guess with the blessings of the Lord, whose darshans we had almost on a daily basis, the entire yatra went incident-free. So remember, whenever you're stuck with some issue that is coming to you as a surprise, go back to your basics, you will never go wrong. These are lessons that I learned initially there. Now, no leader can work alone. He has to have a team with him. Now, the Jawans who I had about 1,200 of them under me in this battalion. They came from varied backgrounds, a number of them from different units, various levels of training, and from various ethnic backgrounds that they had. Getting them to move together in sync in one direction was the biggest challenge I faced. earning their trust is something very, very critical, because these are the men who are willing to entrust their lives in you. So as a leader, it is very important for you to be able to get to them, and this is where we fell back onto our basic training that is given to us at the National Defence Academy and the like, where leaders lead from the front and you look after your men. For the Jawans, it is a matter of not just trusting their leaders, it is also an aspect of comradeship. Like the three musketeers say, it is one for all and all for one. These are the very enduring principles by which we lived our life and carried out our tasks. Now, in these kind of situations, spread over 100 kilometers, it was just 2 months since I had taken over that battalion. I probably did not know everybody. That I ensured that every little outpost of theirs, I went and met up with them, walking all the while through, walking by night, under the shelling that was going on, under all the firing that was going on. But I ensured I remained grounded, in touch with them at all times. Remember, in life, being grounded and being in touch with your comrades and your subordinates is very, very important for the success of your career. Let me come to you with a little bit of a personal trauma that we undergo. Now, normally in the months of, or the summer months, the army lets your families join you in the Kashmir Valley, because these times are so lovely. So we are allowed to bring your families for a short while out there. So my wife and my then 2-year-old daughter had just joined me in the first week of May. And 3 days after they joined me, I got that infamous phone call which forced me to go away. So on the second day, when I was going with the convoy, what I did is I started off the convoy, took my little protection party, zipped off to the Srinagar airport, put my wife and daughter on a flight home, and caught up with my convoy ahead of Srinagar. So my wife realized there was something amiss, which forced me to rush away like that. She herself did not know anything more, because after that I lost all communication with her, because in those areas these were in eras where no mobile phones existed. So there was no means of way she could contact me or I could contact her. So she went home wondering what is happening. Initially there was just no news even on the media, and the news came much later. So what used to happen then was, my brother used to ring up the army headquarters every evening to check with the duty officer on the casualties for the day. And if my name did not figure on that list, it meant that I had survived for one more day. These are traumas not just by me, but was being undergone by just about every soldier and their families during those days. Such experiences are, I only hope, once in a lifetime, because these have no solutions. But if you were now to ask me, what is it that I did out there, or you ask any of my Jawans, how did you do it? How did you go about there knowing that the very next moment you may not cease to live? I'd only say this: I was just doing my duty. It was not any patriotism that came into my mind at that point in time. I had got orders, I was trained, I was doing my duty. I guess those feelings of patriotism more often is displayed only in the cricket fields when you're cheering Team Blue in an Indo-Pakistan cricket match or on a hockey match and the like. There we were all doing our duty. And this really is what is ingrained in all of us during our basic training. When you are taught certain basic principles in life, and the best way to describe it is what Field Marshal Chetwood, when he was training the first batch of the Indian Military Academy in 1932, said this of what your responsibilities as an officer was. I was responsible for 1,200 men. Their lives were in my hands, and the trust was that I would bring them back the way they came in, all alive. I failed in my duty. I failed 12 of them who came back in body bags, coffins, and families. 12 of them, somebody lost a father, somebody lost a son, somebody lost a husband. And I live with that regret even today. So while you are all sitting out here safe and secure in this hall at this very time, please remember that there are people out there on the borders doing their duty based on these very principles, which ensures that you and me are safe. Thank you. Jai Hind.